When it comes to meta ad testing, I think like 90% of people are actually doing this wrong because they don't understand what is the actual goal of testing. And most of the time, what I see when I audit ad accounts on Meta is that this is the number one reason why the return on ad spend is low. So if you're watching this video, probably your return on ad spend is low or is not where you want it to be. And probably the reason behind this is because you are doing testing the wrong way. And just showing here you guys some examples of like ad account that we manage. So here we have spent 50k during these 2 months, and not even fully 2 months, and we got a 4.72 return on spend here. And then this is like another ad account where we spent 125k in almost 1 month. And so in this video, guys, I want to show you exactly how you should structure the testing campaign, like how you should look at testing campaigns, and how you should structure the testing campaign on your meta ads based on your business. Because the problem is that a lot of people just copy whatever they see online from other videos or whatever. The problem is that there is not a one-size-fits-all solution, but you need to understand what structure works best for your business, for your brand, for your KPIs, for your goals. And in this video, I'm gonna guide you through the roadmap, not the roadmap, but like more like the framework actually that you should keep in your mind when you take this kind of decision. Okay, cool. So let's start first with the problem. So people nowadays think that in order to win with meta ads and have a high return on ad spend, they need to test as much as possible, but in reality, this is basically just to lose money. Because if you're spending a lot of budget on ads and you're not seeing a good return on ad spend because you're testing too much, then at the end of the day, the return on ad spend is gonna be low, and your profits will be lower, and so you're just losing money. So the real goal of testing is not to spend as much money as possible on testing, but the real goal is to spend as less as possible to find winners. So what you want to do, you want to increase your win rate, know your budget. The volume, ideally both, this is referred to volume. So like ideally you want to increase both volume and win rate, of course. But what win rate means is the percentage of winning ads that you usually find when you run test. And so in here, there are two main things you need to consider if you want to succeed with meta ads and testing campaigns when you test overall, which is minimize spending and maximize the win rate. These are the two main pillars that you have to consider when you run testing campaign. So how do you actually test ads? We have 4 different ways, and each different approach has some pros and cons, and each single approach has also like a different structure and setup that you should adopt, and I'm gonna explain everything in this video, no worries. Let's start with the first approach. The first approach is through manual cost caps or bid caps. Second approach is through ABO. Third approach is CBO. Fourth approach is Advantage Shopping Plus, which is one unique campaign, one ad set, test and scale. Each single has pros and cons, as I mentioned before, and based on your type of brand, SKUs, and goals, you should adopt a different strategy. And I'm gonna explain everything and all the variables you need to keep into consideration. Yeah, so as you can see here, you need to understand what is the best strategy for your brand based on your situation and your goals. Pros and cons. So manual cost cap and bid caps. Usually, problem with this one is that these ads usually spend only if the creatives that you have inside the campaign can actually meet the KPI in terms of cost caps or bid caps. If not, the campaigns are just not going to spend, and so you might find yourself with a lower revenue, which is also kind of like a safe way of being like, oh, I'm gonna spend money only if I make profit. This is how you want to see it. But then if the AI thinks that cannot make profit based on the KPI that you give them, because ideally you give Meta a cost cap or a bid cap which allows you to have profits. If you cannot meet it, it's not gonna spend money, and so you're not gonna even have some revenue, and you're not gonna have business growth. But then there are some businesses that they are okay to go break even or to lose some money for like a weeks or months, in order to actually grow the business, so make some sales and acquire customers. Because they might look at the LTV, not just at the actual instant, return on the ad spend. And the cons, as I mentioned just now, is that you're not gonna spend money if Meta think that it cannot like meet your KPIs. Second approach is through ABO. ABO has acquired like two different pros, which is the first one is that you can control where Meta ads spend your money, and you can avoid Meta spending money on the wrong signals, and you can scale only on top ROAS ads. I'm gonna explain why I'm talking about these pros, because this goes against the CBO, but I will explain everything. And the cons is that you need to manage everything manually, because you need to allocate, increase, decrease, stop ads, everything, like you need to do everything manually, not like the CBO. That's why the advantage of the CBO is that it's easy to manage. Just launch and wait, and if the new set of ads that you launch go better than actually what is already inside the CBO, Meta is gonna spend more money. But then what are the problems? The problem is that Meta, within a CBO setup, or usually in general, Meta tends to spend more money on videos, which has more engagement usually compared to images. And so you're not really optimizing for return on ad spend in this case, but you're optimizing more, like Meta itself is optimizing overall, like in terms of engagement, cost per results, and everything. And could be a problem because you yourself are not interested in engagement, of course, but then Meta probably is, because Meta wants people to stay in the platform, and so engagement is a good signal for the algorithm, so like for the AI to understand when to push or not an ad. So you need to consider this one as well, because if Meta doesn't have any user on the platform, if there is no engagement, then Meta has no impression to sell to people, to advertisers, so Meta is gonna fail. So you need to consider this thing as well. And then another cons is that CBO, if you go for like a standard setup, which is highest volumes, lowest cost, CBO is going to optimize for the lowest cost. So like the lowest CPA, not necessarily the high return on ad spend. What does it mean? It means that, let's say you have two different products that you're advertising into different ad sets inside a CBO. Then one product has an AOV of 100, another product has an AOV of 50. The 50 product, you're getting a CPA of like 30, so the return on ad spend is not even 2. And then for the 100 product, the CPA is like 35, for instance. And then what is going to happen, or maybe 40, let's say it's 40. What is going to happen is that Meta is going to spend more budget into the first product because the CPA is lower, it's 30. But the return on ad spend, if you look at the actual return on ad spend, is higher on the second product because you're paying 40 for a purchase that has the value of 100. So it's basically like more than double. And so Meta is going to spend to the one with the lowest cost because it's a lowest cost optimization campaign. And that's the problem with the CBO. Then you have the Advantage Shopping Plus Test and Scale, which is a new approach that we have tested recently. I've also made a video inside my YouTube channel where I actually explain how it works and how you should structure it and all the reasoning behind it. You should go check it. And there are some pros here. First one is that it's only one test and scale campaign, and so basically there is like much faster optimization, and so you can exit the learning phase much faster. Then each match is much easier to manage because you just launch everything in one ad set all together. Now the cons is that this is difficult to manage if you have many products, because this should be like one product per Advantage Shopping Plus. You shouldn't have all the products all together. And the videos tend to get more engagement. So we can see like the cons are similar to the CBO setup. Now let's talk about structure. So how you should structure each single like strategy and setup here. So manual caps, you need to have one ad set per type of creative or angle, videos versus images versus carousel and everything. Then you want to test different cost caps or bid caps. I also made a video on my YouTube channel where I explain exactly how you should run this type of campaign, like how to test and everything. So you should go check that out as well. And then what you want to test here, you want to test plus and minus 50% of your target CPA as a bid cap and cost caps, and then see what works. And then you basically, once you find a winner, you test everything with the winning cost cap or bid cap that you have. Of course, here, what you can do, you can have different cost cap or bid caps if you're testing different products with different AOV. Then you have the ABO. ABO is basically just like one ad set per type of creative or angle. The good thing here is that, again, you can choose where to put the budget, and ideally what you want to do, you want to split between videos, images, carousel, UGCs, professional videos, just to avoid the Meta spends more budget on content that are engaging more compared to content like images. You usually don't get much engagement, but they target a more like lower bottom funnel user stage, and so you get usually a higher return on ad spend on average. And then we have a CBO setup when is very similar to the ABO. The only difference is that you need to have one campaign per AOV, because if you have many different AOV products on different price points within the same campaign, what is going to happen is that CBO is going to spend on the products with the lowest CPA, not necessarily the highest return on ad spend. And then finally, you have the Advantage Shopping Plus setup, which is very simple. You have one campaign per product, one ad set only, all creatives, all angles inside. Ideally here you want to split by videos and images into different campaigns, but you can try with all ones, like all together at first. The goal here is that you want to basically have like 20 to 40 active creatives inside all together, one ad set, because this is how it works, and works very well as well. And so you basically just focus all the budget inside one ad set. And so since the optimization, when you want to exit the learning phase, happen within the ad set level, then this is how you actually optimize everything and exit the learning phase much faster. Now, what is the best approach for you? So like for your brand, I've made here like a map that will help you to understand what is the best setup for you, for your brand, and we'll go through everything right now. Cool. So how much you're spending is basically the first question that you need to ask yourself. If you're spending less than 10k a month, 50k a month, 100k a month, you might have different solution that fits best your needs. So the first question you need to ask once you figure out your budget is, what is your priority? And the reason why it's the same question is that because the answers, even though they are the same answers, like the outcomes are the same, but your priority is different based on how much you're spending. And so usually like on these three things here, you can have, like, for instance, if you're spending less than 10k a month, your priority can be just like a simplified approach and maximize return on ad spend. But anyways, the three outcomes here are basically this one. So you have a simplified approach plus maximize return on ad spend. You have no time to manage the ads, but you're okay to have a lower ROAS, but because you want to scale much faster. And then you have time to manage things, you can manage everything manually, and then you want to have a higher return on ad spend. And these are different outcomes, like in terms of setup that you should go for. If you want a simplified approach, you want high return on ad spend, you need to understand first if you're okay if ad don't spend, because some brands, they don't want to have zero revenue, like they don't want to spend money, they don't want not to spend money on ads, so they will never go for a manual bidding approach maybe. So if you're okay, the ads don't spend money, then go for a manual bidding testing starter. If you want not to spend money, you just go for Advantage Shopping Plus. Which is good also if you're testing multiple products, because you do one Advantage Shopping Plus per product. Of course, if you have 50 products, it's gonna be a problem. But if you have 5 products, 3, 4, 5, 7 products, you can do it. Then, if you have no time, you're okay with a lower return on ad spend, but you want to scale much faster, you can go with a CBO setup. And then if you have time to manage everything manually, you want to maximize the return on ad spend because you can have more control on what you're doing, you can go for an ABO setup. This is good if you're also testing multiple products, because you can test more products within the same campaign ABO, rather than the CBO, for instance, having different campaign, one per product, because of course you need to split by AOV. Otherwise you're gonna have the problem with the lowest cost bidding option, like standard from Meta, where it's basically just gonna spend money on the lowest CPA product. And the outcomes are just basically the same, like the actual answers that you need to have are the same. But then in different stages, you might have different priorities. So as I mentioned before, here you might go for the simplified approach, or maybe this approach here. While, for instance, if you're spending less than 10k a month, between 10 and 50k, maybe you want to scale much faster, you want to go with a CBO, or maybe you want to still keep a simplified approach, and you're not okay if your ads just don't spend. And so here I've basically drafted all the, like in green, as you can see, are basically the suggested option based on the spending that you are right now. But of course you need to consider like how fast you want to scale, and if you want to spend budget, like if you want to have zero revenue basically. And but like overall, what I found works very well is like the Advantage Shopping Plus simplified setup works well, and the ABO is the one that we prefer in our agency usually, because we want to have more control on things. Yeah, this is how we can optimize return on ad spend, even by like increasing the ad spend, like the return on ad spend by 10% at scale with a high budget. Is gonna be a huge increase in profits, and this is like what we actually want for our clients basically. And let's say you're spending 10k plus a month, 100k plus a month, and in this case maybe you don't have time to manage like 500 creatives a month because you need to produce much more, and you want to optimize everything within an ABO setup. We usually try to go always for an ABO because we want to have more control. And yeah, guys, basically this is it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment under this video and I'll make sure to answer. And also you will find in the description of this video the link to our website. In case you want to work with us, feel free to reach out. And that's it. I'll see you in the next video.